A team that was kind of like that last year was the Cleveland Guardians, where a lot of people were really low on them to begin the season. And they were kind of a mediocre team through August for the most part. And they had a red hot September with the Twins and White Sox obviously trailing off. Guardians finished at 92 and 70. They've added Josh Bell and they've added Mike Zunino, two spots where they didn't really get much offensive production last year. The White Sox, they finally changed their management, and that was really their biggest thing. I still think there's a lot of holes that they haven't addressed on the offensive side. I think their pitching is very solid. Minnesota, yeah, Minnesota. They actually have starting rotation depth, and I think that's like a surprising thing for Minnesota, but they lost Correa. And then there's the other two teams in that division, the Tigers and the Royals.
I think I think I think the Guardians did exactly what they had to do in the offseason. I think they needed a first baseman and a catcher, and they did exactly that. And I think that Mike Zunino is a fine catcher, and I think that Josh Bell was probably the best first baseman they could have gotten. I think they've done exactly what they need to do. They have the experience now. It's just a matter of whether they're going to be streaky like they were last year. I think if they can find some sort of consistency during the season, I think there's no shot any other team gets close to them. With that being said, I have them finishing first, and I have them doing almost exactly what they did last season.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have Cleveland finishing one, and I might have them a little high. I have them finishing around 98 wins. I
I could
just
I could see that.
just because besides the White Sox, and even the White Sox aren't like a real threat, uh, Minnesota took a step backwards. I mean, and Detroit and Kansas City are still really just bottom feeders right now. Like they're not doing much. So I think even though they're gonna play every team at least once, um, I, they're gonna eat off this. I mean, horrific division. Um,
Not
and yes,
necessarily.
I think against Kansas City, Detroit, and Minnesota, I mean they're just gonna dominate.
I think you guys are forgetting with the balance schedule, you play in division less than you would in previous years.
Oh no, 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 100%, and that's what I brought up. But like, I mean, how many times are you gonna play them? I think it's what,
9.
9 times each?
Yeah.
9, 18, 27, 27. I think they're gonna get about 23 wins off of those bottom three
You have them going 23 and 4.
against Minnesota, Detroit, and Kansas City.
I don't think you understand how difficult 23 and 4 is, even against bad teams.
I I, I think they're gonna get it done. This I don't know.
You
Yeah, this
just,
this division is tough because you have questions for every team. But I
yeah.
think something that's more surprising that might be a little bit of a hot take is I think that the Royals and the Twins will finish very close in record. If not, they might flip.
See, I
Um,
was I was gonna bring up that Royals team. I could see like some steps in the right direction, not because they're analytically inclined or whatever, but just because they have young talent that did get to play in the show last year. And I think Bobby Witt will mature a little bit. If it's not necessarily like a huge breakout year, like a 3-4 win season of something of that nature. But obviously, I don't see the Royals being above 500. I could just see them again being around what the Twins were last year. Um, there is skepticism about their pitching, especially I was excited for Ryan Yarbrough to go to the Dodgers, and that obviously didn't happen. I think he's going to rot away in Kansas City if they don't make any sort of analytical improvement, because he is someone that they could do that with. It's just they don't have the means to do so. I believe the Guardians are a very good baseball team, and I think that they are capable of winning 100 games. But I think with a balanced schedule, they are going to see a lot of AL East and AL West like power teams, and I don't think they fare that well against those teams. I have the Guardians winning the division, probably very similar record to what they did last year.
yeah, and I think. Oh, do we all have the White Sox at number two in the division,
Yeah.
Brad?
I have to think about it.
Because
I mean,
I
I mean,
think
who would
they
you
have the
have?
talent. They have the talent to finish second. And yeah, Aiden's right. Who else would you put in that number two spot?
I
It's
mean,
just,
you
Um,
can't you
yeah.
can't say Minnesota if you just said Kansas. So Kansas City.
Hmm? I mean, I technically could say that Minnesota would finish in second with like a 78-win season. It almost happened last year.
yeah, it is that bad out there in the Central, but I see the White Sox finishing second. I see them showing a lot of improvement. They're a very streaky team, and I mean, you can tell the whole clubhouse vibe was off. I hope that the new manager situation can fix that.
It
It might
will
help
be.
their streakiness. And I think that they might become a consistent team and honestly contend for the number one spot if they can get that back. Um,
Interesting.
I don't think that's out of the picture. I think we're forgetting how much talent's on there and just how it's not being utilized correctly.
Uh, Yeah, I mean, you can see what a new manager can like do, and I think you look at last year in Philadelphia. I'm just, that new manager came in and just re-jolted the team. And I think a couple players, need that on the White Sox. So I think with the new manager, if it's gonna like take that type of way, then they could fight. I mean, they could fight for the division. I don't have them winning it though, obviously.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
the White Sox, there's such I they're so vulnerable to do exactly what they did this year. And I don't see how they wouldn't be sellers at the trade deadline if what happened this year happened again. Because you're
absolutely.
you're about to lose Lance Lynn to free agency after this year, who a team would gladly pay for. Their prospect system is, I think, the worst in baseball. Like, I think they don't have a prospect, maybe one or two. I'm genuinely serious. I think they might only have one or two in the top 100. And I'm not obviously we cooked on this division in our AL Central recap episode. We did dirty this division, but it's just the AL mid for a reason.
I mean,
And
both sides of the AL, but both sides of the Central.
I don't think
Sorry.
the NL Central is nearly as bad as this
Oh
division.
no, 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 not nearly as bad, but I mean, this
So
year was.
I will agree with the White Sox in second as of now, solely based on roster construction. I
Yeah.
think in that same sense, I have Twins in third, Royals in fourth, and then obviously that puts the Tigers in fifth. That's not
That's
I don't see where this Tigers team is going because the young talent, it's starting to be time. Like it is time whether this will be talent or a bust. And obviously, I think Torgelson's obviously too young to tell. He obviously didn't have a good sample last year, but it's definitely still a possibility that he could be a star. This is Miggy Cab's last year, so maybe some of that flows into the team and like the juices are inspired, but I'm not convinced it will be.
I think I would bet money on this standings finish, unless the entire Guardians team just gets up and leaves. There's no way the Guardians don't win the division. I don't see the Twins being good enough to reach the level of the White Sox. I don't see the Royals be actually that is a good point. I think the Royals and the Twins could potentially flip in the case of a random hot streak. I think the Royals could do something like that, but I don't know if they have the facilities to develop those players. Like Brad said, they're not very analytically driven, so I don't know what they're going to do with this pitching staff. Um, and that those moves kind of did confuse me, but at least they're trying to go buy out some players. I don't really know what their plan is yet, but it's definitely better than the Tigers. It's better. Anything's better than the. I'm sorry if you're a Tigers fan. The Giants are always open. The fan base here is really cool. You can join
No,
us
they're
if you
not.
want.
No, they're
Yeah,
not.
we
They're
are.
really not.
Nah.
They hold on to 2021 like it was yesterday.
okay. Come on, we don't want to be
Hey,
hurting some
hey,
fan base
it was like
feelings.
yesterday.
No,
We're on top of the league, baby.
I'm with you guys. I think Brad, what you said is the way it finishes, but I also don't want to. Tom, you said there's no way the Guardians don't win the division. I,
Yes.
it's not a good chance, but there is a way. And I mean, we look at it last year. We said the same thing with the White Sox. I mean, we all had the White Sox winning about 98 games or whatever, winning the division. Yeah, go ahead.
I just said
Okay.
93.
No, I wanted to say when I bet this, I think I texted this and I also told you guys this a million times. I'm like, they have to do it. I didn't want like it was more like a not they're not going to it wasn't like a they're going to do this. It was more like a I want them to do this because they're running out of time and this team can only be good for another 2 years. It was more of that, less of, and also the fact that before the start of the 2021 season, we thought this was the worst division of all time. I mean, this was like the Mickey Mouse division. If Cleveland didn't randomly spawn in these players, um, there wouldn't have been any competition to even go against the White Sox. That's why we thought it was so easy. And obviously, without the new season format where you have to play every team and everything, that's just feeding off of your own division. So it was not out of the picture for analysts, baseball fans everywhere to think that the White Sox would just destroy everyone.
Well, we all
But
had
you
it.
know, yeah, and like yeah, and we all knew that it was going to happen. But another team arose, and I think that Cleveland's going to redo the same thing next season, and White Sox have too much competition.
So we all have the same layout
Exactly.
for that division.
Yeah, yeah.